Hey, it's Tom, and today we're going to build something totally different. So today we're going to build an app that will be deployed to Google Cloud, and this app will be able to monitor availability of our website or our online app. And whenever the server or app will be down, our app will send us an email with notification that the website is down or the app is not responding. Okay, so let's jump to the code. At first, I think that we should start with explanation why I've chosen Google Cloud. So I was wondering if we can use Heroku, but it turned out that to get enough quota for working in the background on Heroku, you have to provide your payment method, so your credit card, and it's still it's very close. Our need would be very close to the maximum quota per month. So I thought that we can use the Google Cloud, and with Google Cloud you have such a big free quota that you can build couple servers or couple apps which are working even in the background, and it will be totally enough to support them. Okay, so if you're not new to Google Cloud and you have built an App Engine app in the past, then you can skip to, yeah, I will put card somewhere here. And if you're new, let's stay with me, and we'll quickly create a new project and build it from scratch. Okay, so at first you have to go to the cloud google.com. I assume you have already Google account. Then you can go to the console. I created my Google account like many years ago, so I'm not sure if you have never used the Google Cloud, then if that's looking exactly the same. And as you see, I have already existing the website monitoring project, which I'm using to monitor my own website. But we will create a new project. So yeah, let's create a new one. Yeah, and let's call it availability monitoring. Okay, no organization. We have to press create. It can take up to like 1 minute to create the project, and then we'll have to set up our data store because okay, it's already working. Because the app will keep track of all visits on our server or our website. Then because of that, it's worth to just keep the history somewhere, for example, in data store. So for this reason, we are using data store. There are many different solutions. There's also a Firestore. However, you have to be careful with Firestore and sticking to all Firebase products, because today I got the info from Google, probably a lot of developers, all developers got, that Cloud Functions on Firestore will have to migrate to Node.js 10 running environment, and starting like March 2021 you have to go to the Blaze plan, and the Blaze plan means that there's no free quota and you have to pay as you go. So this kind of app will be not free at all anymore. Anyway, so I created my project somewhere in the past, and because of that I didn't use Firestore and I decided to use the traditional data store. So we just have to create the data store. We have to decide if we want to use the data store or Firestore. So I used the old good data store, and it's still working for a long time. And yeah, so it will take some time to create, like 1 minute maybe. And the next thing we need to do is you just have to download the yeah, let's allow it to be created. Then you just have to download the SDK for your system. So I'm currently working on macOS, so you have to go to the cloud.google.com/SDK, And then you have the long list of quick starts for Linux, for macOS, and for Windows. You just have to go through the couple steps, and the Google Cloud SDK will be installed on your machine. Okay, it looks like our data store was already created. And okay, so right now we have to create a new folder. Okay, as you see, I have a couple right here. So let's check if we are in good place. Yep. Let's call it YouTube. Okay, and the next thing we need to do is gcloud init. We have to initialize the local environment for Google Cloud project. Thanks to that, it will be easier to deploy changes in future. So as you see, if you are doing that first time, then you will be asked for a couple things, but in general you will be asked if you want to recreate or create a new configuration. And in my case, I don't need to create a new configuration. It's just pressing yes, enter, yes, enter, yes, enter, and it's working. And it will fetch the whole list of my accounts and apps that I'm able to use. So our app is called Availability Monitoring. Yeah, so this is this one. And okay, so it looks like our environment is already created, and now it's time to switch to the code, which is the most interesting part. Okay, let me move it right here. Okay, we have folder YouTube, and as you may imagine, I already prepared the code. So let me copy the code, and I will try to explain you how it's working without losing time to write it from scratch. Okay, so I forgot about one thing. npm install. There are a couple packages that have to be fetched. Okay, so the packages are being fetched, and let's go to the code. So we have a normal package.json file, like in any Node.js app, and there's a list of dependencies. The first one is data store, Google Cloud /data store. This is the library that is allowing us to access the data store, put data, and fetch data from the data store. Axios, it's HTTP client that we were using in the past many times. There should be a reference to my old video when I was explaining all the details about the Axios. Express for routing, the most common library in Node.js, and mailgun-js. This is for sending us an email with notification that something wrong has happened with our website, and we'll use that in live demo. Okay, so without the package.json, there's of course we need the index.js that I will explain in a moment. But there's also an app.yaml file, which is configuration file, which is needed. And you can put many configurations right there. But in our case, we just need to decide which running environment we want to use. And in this case, it's Node.js in version 10. Okay, so now let's go to the code. Okay, so of course, you can run the code locally, but without access to the data store, of course, and you can then deploy that. So maybe, maybe let's start with just running that locally without accessing the data store. So we will need just one. Okay. We will just need the one method. Okay, so maybe let's start from the top. Sorry for that. So we just have to import the express Axios, we have to import the data store. There is a URL to check. This is my blog URL. So we'll be checking if that's up or down. Then there's a whole configuration for Mailgun. The good thing with using Mailgun on Google Cloud is that normally Mailgun probably doesn't have a free quota, but if you are registering and using Mailgun on Google Cloud, you have 30,000 emails per month for free. So that's great, and that's exactly coming from their tutorial. So it doesn't need an explanation, I believe. And we just create a new data store instance to be able to use that to put the data and fetch the data from the server later. So basically, our app will have two routes. One is the root, and when going to the root, our server will just fetch visits from the long list of visits, and then we will map them to form them in a more readable way, and then we will send the plain text response to the website, so everyone can see that. So the only interesting method we are using here is get visits, and this is this method. So in get visits, we just create a query to a data store, because that's no SQL database, so we don't have to write SQL queries. We just create query to get all objects with the key visit, because each visit on our website will be just saved in a database under the key visit, and it will have couple fields. One of them is timestamp, so we want to order them in descending order, so the newest will be first and so on. And we just want to limit them to 100, because after a couple days, if we will ask the server to check the website each minute, then it takes like 3,600 checks per day, if I'm correct. Yeah, 24 times 60. 14,400 probably, yeah. Yeah, 1,440. Sorry, without calculator, I'm lame. Okay, so that's the root, and then there's the second one, which is called test. And this endpoint is actually the most interesting here, because we are using Axios and interceptors to get the response time from the server. This code was already used in the last video. There should be card somewhere here. So if you are really interested how it's working, there's a better explanation than here. In general, interceptors allows us to add some additional data to the request while sending the request, and to modify this data while receiving the response from the server. And in our case, when we are sending the request, we add the start date, start time, and when we receive the response from the server, the response will have an additional field called duration, and the duration is the difference between current time and the time of sending the request. So it will be time in milliseconds of the difference between sending the request and receiving the response. When you're sending that from your local server, your internet connection might have some impact on that. But when you are using that on Google Cloud, I assume that it's pretty constant, so you can use this data to verify if your server is if your website or app is slowing down or not. Okay, so these two are interceptors, and then we just create a new GET request for Axios. We provide the URL to check, which is in my case my blog website, and then when we get the response, we just create a new visit object with the timestamp and response duration, and the key which is true, that the request was successful. In case of error, we don't need the response duration because it failed anyway. So it could be timeout or just 400 because our app was down. Yeah, so the successful key is false. We can console that if we want to check that locally. And then we call the report error, which is a method that is sending us a report on email. So it's copied from the Mailgun documentation. So we just create a data object that is provided to the Mailgun and is being sent to this is my email, and the subject is just dynamic, and please check what's wrong with your server, and we just provide error received from Access. Okay, by the way, I will recreate all those sandbox API keys, so it's just pointless to try to copy them and use. Okay, anyway, going back to here, so we catched the error, the case in which the app is not working, and then we have just one more then after the whole promise, because that's always executed, and in each case we just want to insert the visit into our database, and insert visit is this method. So we just used our data store to save object, which is the visit that we provided, the key value, the dictionary, and we set the key to be visit. So then we can create a query to get those visits later on. Okay, looks like it's working, and we went through the whole app, and yeah, that's just the standard operation while using Express, that we use the port provided by a local env, or if that's running locally without providing any environment variable, then we just use this port. Okay, so in general you can just use npm start to run this code locally. However, without access to the data store, it's in general a little bit pointless to do this. So I think that we can deploy that already, and it should be working because I checked that it is working. Okay, so to deploy the code, we should use gcloud app deploy, and thanks to that we already initialized the running environment. Whenever you will run gcloud app deploy, Google Cloud will know which app you're trying to deploy, and it will not ask you for any details. It will just do its work. And yeah, so let's wait for a moment, and as soon as this will be done, then we will be able to go to our console and see the logs in data store, and we will be able to also run our app and verify if it's really working. Okay, so that can take up to a couple minutes, so I will mute so I can cut it in future. Okay, looks like the app was deployed. It took like 2 or 3 minutes, and the good thing is that console also allows us to easily get the URL for our app, but we can use gcloud app browse to open our app in a default browser. And okay, so yeah, at least it doesn't it doesn't fail at this moment. So the response is empty because we didn't run the app yet. So we have to go to the test endpoint, and yeah, we have run the test endpoint. So the request to my blog was done, and there is the response from the server. So it's the current timestamp. response duration was less than 1 second, and it was of course successful. And right now, if we will go to the main website, we see that there is first result in our database, which is being returned. And let me now go to the to our database. And right now, if we will refresh this page, we should see our first result in data store. Yep, as you see, it's here. And so for monitoring the website in general, you just have to run the test endpoint every 1 minute. So you can use a timer or a clock, and you just have to press Command R every 1 minute. That's it. That's the tutorial I prepared for you. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Okay. Of course, Google Cloud thought about this, and because of that, we have something which is called cron. If you were writing some apps in the past, for example, and you have used, for example, Django or any other backend server, you know that there is something that's commonly called cron, and cron jobs are the jobs that are scheduled to be done. And of course, Google App Engine supports that, and we can create just a new configuration file which is called cron.yaml, and in a very easy way we can describe which endpoints should be triggered with what kind of schedule. So for example, every 24 hours, every 1 minute, like here. And in our case, because I really want to be able to check if my website is constantly up, then I decided that I will create a cron that will ask and will check my website every 1 minute. So in the same directory, you have to create a cron.yaml file, and the description is probably optional. The URL is mandatory, that's obvious, and the schedule is also mandatory field. And you can have multiple cron jobs within one app engine, but remember that there is some limit with the quota, and on a free plan you can use up to 10 cron jobs or 20. I'm not sure, but you have to check. Anyway, one is definitely for free. And you can now wonder why it's not working if that's already there. Because the strange thing is that cron is not being deployed by default. So if we want to deploy cron jobs, then we just have to do something like this: gcloud app, okay, maybe deploy cron YAML. And yeah, so we have to do this manually. And there's also a good thing, because by default, this kind of job you're doing once at the start of your project, or maybe twice when you are trying to change that at some point in future. So right now, when this was deployed, you can go to your app engine and check cron jobs. And yeah, as you see, we have already created a cron job that is triggering the test endpoint that is checking our website if it's up or down. There's some short description, it's just needed for us, and the frequency is 1 minute. So it hasn't run yet, but it will be running every 1 minute, so it should run in a moment. And yeah, there's the last point that I added, that if the website is down, we should get the notification from the mailgun. However, my blog is constantly up, so it shouldn't happen right now, but we can modify our code a little bit and to just show you that it's really working. So there is probably no website like this, and right now we can deploy the new code, and that's the great thing, that you can deploy that quickly. It takes the same amount of time as probably committing and pushing to the repository, and during this time we can just look back at our cron jobs, and yeah, it looks like it's already working, and that's very good info for us. And in our data store, the amount of entities should be significantly bigger. So there are already 4 of them, and it will be increasing every single minute. Okay, so yeah, it's still deploying. Okay, it was deployed, luckily very fast, and right now in like a minute I should get an email with notification that my website is down. As soon as I will get this, yeah, we can wait together for that. Yeah, give me 1 second. It should come. It's here, and you can see that, yeah, there is an info that yeah, there's an info that the website is down. Okay, so right now I should change that, because I will be spammed with this emails every single minute. Yep, definitely I want to change that. And when we will go to this website right now, we should see that, yeah, as you see, 2 most recent requests were false, were not successful. Okay, so this should be deployed in a moment. Okay, so that's everything I prepared for you today. When this app will allow you to monitor your website or your server for free, because Pingdom is not free anymore. So you can use Google Cloud to monitor your server for free. And that's it. Thank you for your time. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, and if you would like me to create more apps like this and deploy them to Google Cloud or AWS, please let me know down in the comment section under the video. Of course, the source code for this app will be provided and the link will be in description. So once again, thank you for your time. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye.